Okay, so we'll start today one of the topic which is rational unified process. So which we have been calling it as a RUP. So it is also one of the software engineering process like what we have SDLC in waterfall. So similar to that, we have the rational unified process, which is one of the tool that it's not a tool, it's like a process that what we are going to use. So it is also having the similar type of life cycle that what we have in waterfall model or in the SDLC process. But the difference here is in waterfall model, we don't have a specific for I think it will be calling like a separate framework that these are the steps that we need to follow, or this is the what we can say, like in case of framework, like a specific rules and guidelines, or a specific you can say specific standards that need to be followed. So we have a process which is called as a rational unified process. So its goal is also to deliver the same, like giving the high quality software which meets the needs of the business. And this is a framework which is built on blocks of the content elements, and the main blocks of this RUP process includes like for whom we are delivering, and then what we are delivering, and then how we are going to delivering. So this is the main key theme of using the rational unified process. So we have three block elements here, which is the who, what, and then how. So you can see like the who is comprised of like what are the roles that we are going to define on certain responsibilities and competencies. And then what is the part like you are going to develop in that particular building block, or like in the work products that you are going to define the, or you are going to achieve the result. And then the how part is compassed about the encompassed about the building block of like tasks that whatever we are going to deliver in that particular release or in the particular sprint. So we need to deliver them in the form of a tasks. So that is how these three blocks will be acting as the framework for the RUP. So the RUP life cycle, we have four different phases. One is the inception, elaboration, and then construction and transition. So you can see like the terminology or the phases itself indicates the clear identification of first one is the inception, where we are going to inspect like what is the things that we are going to deliver, and then elaborating, which will comes under the documentation phase, where we are going to document that whatever the information we have collected in the inspect phase. And then the construction is the development phase, which we are going to uh, do the development of whatever the things that we have inspected and documented in the elaboration phase. And transition is nothing but delivering the development part that what we have done. So if you see here in the inception phase is the phase where the concept is actually commenced or initiated. So it is nothing but in our terminology, we will be calling it as the project scope, defining the scope of the project or understanding the scope of the project, or you can say identifying the objectives of the project. So this will be mostly exploded with the, like we have already mentioned, it deals with the scope of the business, the stakeholders, and the cost benefit analysis, and the feasibility analysis as well. So inception phase provides a strong foundation to the phases which is coming to next. So as we discussed, like, excuse me, so these are the four different phases. So one phase will be, these four phases are interconnected, like inception phase, whatever the output of this phase will be acting as a input for elaboration phase, and whatever the output of the elaboration phase will be acting as a input for the construction phase, and the output that we are going to deliver from the construction phase will be acting as a input to the transition phase. That is how these four phases are interlinked or interconnected with each other. So we see like in the inception phase, we have delivering, we are identifying what is the scope of the project, and then who are the different stakeholders involved in the project. So within this information, that what we have identified or what we have done in the inception phase, we will be using that information in the elaboration phase, where we are going to define and validate the baseline architecture and to address the architecture significant risks and to define the vision, and it will be acting as a baseline to detailed plan of the construction phase. So demonstrates that what benefit architecture will support the vision at a reasonable period of time. So in the construction phase, we will complete the software product for transition to production, and we will minimize the development cost by optimizing resources and avoiding and achieve adequate quality as rapidly. And then we will using the useful versions like alpha, beta, and other test releases. You know that alpha version is the basic version of the product that what we are going to deliver, and beta version is say like whatever the enhancements or any additional features that we are not able to deliver, or which will be coming up as a change request or any new enhancements, so that we are going to be delivered in the phase of in the version of beta version. So in the project where the actual work starts in the construction phase, because in the inspection phase you have identified the uh, scope of the project and who are the different stakeholders involved, and in the elaboration phase you are doing a detailed uh, documentation or detailed discussion on like what will be the stake, who are the different stakeholders involved, and then what are the objectives of the project. So all this done, you are elaborating in the elaboration phase, and in the construction phase you are doing the maximum work of delivery of the project. So this will be called as the name itself indicating like we are constructing the product that what you're going to deliver to the client. And here transition phase is nothing but to achieve stakeholders concurrence about the deployment baselines and the final product baseline. And then the final product baseline with rapid and cost effective manner. And in the transition phase, we will be having the decision like what will be the things we can able to release into the product. So the use of RUP is a framework that can be used by any corporation or a software project team for its purpose by choosing the elements they need to from it, and it is the specific adaptive tailoring as per needs features of our rational unified process, which makes it more high popular with the developers team and the industry. So here we have already discussed about the roles of a BA in SDLC process. So the similarly, we have the RUP framework in which where the BA will be involved in the evaluation phase. You can see the more business analysis tend to get involved during this stage where the business needs of a problem that what we are going to deliver at a high level. So the role of BA here involved in the evaluation phase where developing a concept statement, which we can also be calling it as a problem statement or the scope of the project, and then to perform a feasibility study and to prepare an impact analysis and to prepare a cost benefit analysis. And in the analysis phase, we already discovered like what we are going to do as a BA. So he will be involved in the requirements gathering, conducting workshops and interviews preparation, then the observation of like what are the things that we are going to develop. And once we have this requirements solicitation or requirements gathering done during the workshops, facilitations, or the brainstorming, or the interview sessions with the clients or the whoever the stakeholders involved in the project. So after that, we will be preparing the documentation. So you got the few information about, you have gathered some information in the requirements gathering section, and then you are putting that information in the business requirements document, or we can also have a functional and non-functional requirement documents. And then we have the design phase where we will be reviewing the solution documents, like whatever the documents that we have prepared from the BRD, we are going to extract or we are going to prepare the functional requirement specifications. So here we will be having a solution documents which will be reviewed by the solution designer or any architects, And we will also keep the stakeholders engaged so that whatever their requirements that are implemented or that are discussed in the part of a BRD business requirement artifacts. So those has been mentioned in the solution that what we are going to be deliver or not. And based on this design phase, we are going to start developing the code or start writing the functionality of the requirements here. And then the testing is the phase like whatever the business analyst can assist the reviewing the test scripts to ensure all the functional requirements are being tested. So now you have in the design phase, you have prepared the necessary required documents for the project and you have shared to the team, which is the development and the testing team. So the testing team will be, we always know like as a BA, we need to clarify the any doubts or any queries that the team is having while developing the functionality. And similarly, for the testing team, whatever the test cases they have prepared on based on the functional document or based on the requirement that you have explained on that functionality. So you will be checking whether all the test cases that has been written in such a way that that met the functionality of the requirement that you have been derived. So here, starting from the evaluation phase to analysis phase, design phase, and testing phase. So these are the four phases where the BA is involved in the as a the BA will be performing the roles and responsibilities. And yes, so let's see here. Just we will recollect whatever we discussed. So it is also a unified process like SDLC process. And here we will be encompassing with the three block elements, which are who, what, and how. And then we have four different phases in the RUP cycle, which is inception phase, elaboration phase, construction phase, and then transition phase. And we will see like what happens in the inception phase. We will do the initial concept of like understanding the client requirement or defining the scope of the project or identifying the objectives of the project. And then we will see whether all the objectives that has been entrusted by the client can be able to deliver or can be able to do in the construction phase. And in the construction phase, you are making the complete software product that need to be delivered into the production, and like what are the things that we can able to deliver in the into the production phase among the requirements that what we have discussed from the client. And we will be maintaining the delivering the product in the form of versions like alpha version, beta version, and then a test release. So alpha version is like mostly the MVP, where we will be calling it as in the Agile or terminology, we will be calling it as an MVP, which is the most valuable product. So the alpha version mostly consists of the major requirements or major functionality of the product, and the beta version will be like whatever the change requests or any new enhancements or any new changes in the functionality, will be adding it into another version, and we will be calling it as a beta version. And you can see here, these are the four different phases where the BA will be involved in the RUP process. In the evaluation phase, he will be involved, and in the analysis phase, he will be involved with the clients to conduct the requirements gathering and prepare the requirements documentation. And in the design phase, he will be working with like whatever the FRD or the functional requirement specification document that you have prepared. So that is meeting as per the solution standards or the solution documents that the organization is having. And then in the testing phase, we will be assisting the testing or the QA team to ensure that all the functional requirements that what we have, what for what they have written the test cases that are being covered in their test case scenarios they have prepared. So this is about the RUP phase. So any questions till now in the RUP phase? It is a simple process like what we have discussed, similar to that of an SDLC or the waterfall model. In SDLC, the waterfall model that what we have discussed. So any questions till now in this RUP process? If not, then we'll move to our next topic, which is chapter 7. That is requirements gathering techniques. Let me see whether I have the. So I think I have shared this document to you. This is one of the requirements. These are all the different types of requirements gathering techniques that what we will be using in the process of gathering the requirements from the client. So we have different techniques here. First one is the acceptance and evaluation criteria. As you people always you'll be aware of, like similarly to the process of writing the acceptance criteria, and we have the benchmarking, and we have the brainstorming and business rules analysis, data dictionary and glossary, data flow diagrams, data modeling, decision analysis. So these are the basic and the more, or we can say like the most used techniques in the requirements gathering sessions. So among these, in the real-time implementation, we will be using mostly these brainstorming sessions. And then we have these three from the fourth section onwards, the fourth technique and the fifth, the data dictionary and glossary, data flow diagrams, and data modeling. These are correlated to each other. So we will see like starting with the first technique, like acceptance and evaluation criteria. So in this, like the purpose of this will be to define the requirements that must be met in order for a solution to consider as acceptable to the key stakeholders or not. So in this the technique, what we will be doing, like we will determine the requirements in such a way, like we will be preparing the acceptance criteria, and at the same time will also mention like the evaluation criteria, which is nothing but evaluation criteria is the set of requirements that will be used to choose between multiple solutions. Like you have prepared the acceptance criteria, like this is how the functionality should be, and then in the evaluation criteria we will mention the same set of requirements and how that will be used using multiple solutions. And the basic elements that what we will be having in this acceptance criteria or the acceptance and evaluation criteria is the testability and determining the ranking and score. Ranking and score is nothing but giving the priority or giving the ranking for the requirements that must having giving the priority. Like you can say like it's a process of determining the order of importance of all requirements. Like if you see, we already discussed few of the techniques called as a Moscow, which we discussed like the requirements that must fall in must have category, and the requirements that will be falling under should have category, and the requirements that will be falling into the could have category, and then another set of requirements that will be falling into the category of would like to have in the future. So here we will be focusing on the first step, which is the must have requirements, where we will be calling it as a proposed solution, and we will be considering the other set of requirements which will be falling into the category of should have and could have and would like to have, giving the lower rankings. And this technique where we will be using at the agile methodology, which require all the requirements may be expressed in the form of a testable acceptance criteria. So that is why we are writing the user stories in such a way that it is explained using the acceptance criteria format. And then you will see like what will be the disadvantages. Acceptance and evaluation criteria may express contractual obligations and as such may be difficult or change for the legal or political reasons. So when we are defining the acceptance criteria, it has to be met the organization, like whatever the organization policies they are following. Like if you are delivering the developing the product on such a on a particular requirement, so that is the requirement that has been described based on the standards that the company or the organization is following. So this is the advantages and disadvantages of using the acceptance and evaluation criteria. And benchmarking is the same, which will be sitting as like these are the certain standards that need to be followed, or that need to be constructed, or that has been defined from the organization. So benchmark studies are always performed to compare the strengths and weakness of the organization. Again, it's peers and competitors. Like if you have different competitors in the market, so in the market, when you are delivering the product or when you are developing the product, so you will be identifying like what are the strengths that our software is having, and then what are the weaknesses that our product is having. So considering the weaknesses as the deliverables, or we can say like that will be the action items that need to be constructed and implemented, or you can also say that will be the new features that we need to launch into our product. So benchmark studies, as we said, like it will be used to compare the pros and cons of the product that what we are going to develop. And so this benchmark studies will be conducted to compare the original practices against the best in class practices with the competitor enterprise in the government. And this main objective is to determine how companies achieve their best performance levels and use that information to design their product that what they are going to deliver. So benchmark is always requires the business analysis to identify what are the areas to be studied, and what need to identify organizations that are the leaders in the sector, and we need to conduct a survey of selected organizations to understand their practices, and we need to arrange for the visits to best in class organizations, and then finally developing a project proposal to implement the best practices. So it is nothing but in the simple way what we can say like benchmarking is nothing but in we are identify we first we need to understand our product, and then we need to identify what are its strengths, or like what will be the most advantages of using our product, and then what will be the disadvantages of our product. This is the first step that what as a BA we need to do. And then the second one is identify the similar type of products that are available in the market, and try to understand their product functionality, that what are the advantages of their product, and then what were the disadvantages of the other products that are there in the market. And then you need to prepare a feasibility document, or you can also say like it is a gap analysis document, such which includes like these are the gaps that are identified, that which are not present in our product, or which will be the uh, like the benchmark standards that we have identified on comparing the on understanding the products that are available in the market which suits to our product functionality. So based on that, among the list of say like in the benchmark document that you have prepared, like these are the set of functionalities which are not available in our product, or which are the things that we can say like good to have in our product. So those requirements, say for example, if you have around 4 to 5 features that you have identified, and these are the features that are not there in our product. So among those 5 features, we need to check like what are the features that we can able to deliver with the existing framework or existing technology or the existing team that what we are having. So among these five, let's say we can achieve only three of them. So let's put like three as a actionable items, and you see what are the three functionalities that we need to add into our product, our existing product. And for the three new functionalities, you need to prepare an actionable list of items. So for these three, we need to, in order to implement or in order to derive this functionality, we need to have these are the actionable items that we need to implement. Like, say, for example, giving the flexibility to the users. So in our product, we have the user flexibility is compared to be less when compared to the other products in the market. So you need to focus on the user flexibility. So how you are going to provide the flexibility to the users to use our product. So based on that, you need to put some actions like we need to add some help text over there, or whenever you are entering in any value or texting any value in the particular respective field. So there should be some information provided, like this field will be used to capture the details of the like your PAN number, and this number will be like it's a SSN, or you will be calling it as a security number, which will not be disclosed in any of the information shared with the others in the or in the application. So it will be kept as a hidden. So these type of information that we can able to provide to the user, so that the user will be knowing, like few of the users will not be quite enough to enter their PAN number, because the PAN number is connected with the entire professional information that the particular user is having. So here we need to mention like why we are capturing the PAN number. So you need to give the information text over, like this information will be used for the organizational purpose to identify the employees usage, or the employees or you can say like with the use of the PAN number you can get the your previous organization's PF related information. So this information, this PAN number will be used for the HR department to get your I mean your PF account details, or you can see like your um, other information. All these things, for this purpose we are capturing this information. So that is how we need to put the one of the actionable items in delivering the or adding the value to the user flexibility. So brainstorming, it's a simple way of like you will be conducting a meetings with the clients or the different stakeholders, and then discussing them about this particular requirements, and then taking their inputs, and understanding whatever the information that you have collected and you have understood from on that particular meeting. You will be preparing them notes, or which will be calling it as a MOM, and then if there is any inputs that you need to that you are going to expecting from the requirement from the client, so you will be addressing them like this is the information that what we have collected, and this is the information that what we are expecting from you, and making all this discussed information into a form of an document, and then getting their review and approval process, and then finally getting the sign off. This is all the things that will be happening in the brainstorming sessions. And business rules validation analysis is nothing but there will be certain business rules defined by the organizations. So, according to the business rules, we need to develop the functionality. So, it's a simple thing like, say, for example, excuse me. It's the simple way of understanding this business rules analysis is like consider a leave policy where employees who are taking continuous leaves more than 3 days. So the fourth day, if they have not reported to the office or not reported to the manager, then these 3 days will be considering it as a loss of pay. So that is the way they have defined their particular rule, which will be calling it as a business rule of their organization. So that is how they have defined the business rules, and based on that business rule, we are going to develop the functionality. So the code will be written in such a way in the leave management system is like when the user clicks on if the user not attended for the fourth day in the office, not reported in the fourth day, and he has taken the leave. So when you are written in the code, so if the user applies for the fourth day according to the business rules, so you have to return in the functionality or the code in such a way like the system should automatically calculate these 3 days along with the fourth. The fourth days will be as a loss of pay. So when you identified from the code like these are the 4 days of loss of pay, that should reflect to your salary, indicating that while generating the payroll, so these 4 days salary should be deducted from the employee. So that is how the business rule has been derived from the organization. And based on the business rule, we are developing the functionality. And the code will be written in such a way to meet the functionality. And wherever that is connected, say, for example, here we have seen in the leave policy, we have identified it should reflect in the leave structure or in the your leave policy or in the say like your leave status, that whatever the total number of leaves that have been taken, so from there it is connected to your payroll. So when generating the payroll, it should deduct the 4 days of amount, and the final amount should be calculated and displayed when you are generating the payroll, and this total amount should be credited to your account in the form whenever there is a salary generated. And the data dictionary and the data flow diagrams, these are at very high level, and most of the companies will not be using this one because of even this will be used mostly for the uh, where we can call it as like US healthcare or any healthcare domains or any insurance domain sectors or any banking sectors. So they will be having their initial data dictionary. So they will be having certain type of structure, like this is how the data should be. So when they have this data, so you need, so according to the data, we need to be written the functionality in such a way like, so once we have the like the employee ID, which will be considering it as the primary key. So based on the employee ID, we are going to generate whatever the information that the employee is having in the organization. That is whether he, based on the employee ID, we will be calculating his leaves, and based on the employee ID, we will be identifying his at how many days he visited the office, and based on the employee ID, his access card will be connected, and whenever he is making a swipe in or swipe out from the office, so that swipe in time details will be entered into the respective tables or into the respective data based on the employee ID, which will be acting as a primary key. And we can also say like an example, like the gratuities. So based on the employee ID, system will be calculating like your date of joining is so and so, and after completing of the 5 years or 6 years period of time, so saying like this employee is eligible for the gratuity based on the date of joining, which is connected to the employee ID. So that is how the data dictionary should be prepared. And then we have the data flow diagrams. This is also similar to the data dictionary, but here we are giving the information in the form of a flow diagram process, like to show how the information is inputted or processed, stored, and how the system is going to show it as an output. So the data flow diagram gives you a visual representation of how the information is moved through a system. It shows like where you are getting the information and in how you are storing that information, and then how you are displaying as a output into the system. So this is how you need to represent in the form of a data flow diagrams here. And while generating the data flow diagrams, we need to identify like what will be the external entities, like the source of data that you are going to get it from the particular functionality. And then you are mentioning like where the data will be stored and how the data will be processed. And then finally you're explaining about how the data is going to represent or going to generate it as a output. And this data modeling, I think this is completely a very high level process of giving the information or giving the requirements part over there. So here, this data flow diagram, we will be having a certain need some basic high level knowledge on the database designs or database structure, where we will be having the primary one, which will calling it as a ERD enterprise, or we can say like entity relationship diagram when you are designing the database. So entity relationship is a diagram is nothing but what are the different entities we are having, and we need to establish the relationship between those entities. So like if you have any idea in the database, like we will be identifying what is the primary key and what is the foreign key. So when we design the ERD, or which is nothing but entity relationship diagram. So here this, when you set the primary key, so based on the primary key, the entire details will be captured. So that is how the data will be modeling in the sense of like designing. So to follow this particular technique, we need to have a complete grip on how the data is designed. The data is designed in the backend, like backend in the sense of like in the database that what we are using. And decision analysis, it's a simple way, like it supports the decision making whenever we have the complex or any difficulties of delivering the uncertain situations. So it is always an approach giving the decision making and models the possible consequences of the different decisions.